Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back for some more EVE Online. Welcome back also to JITA, the largest trade hub in EVE Online, because in today's video I want to take a look at mostly the faction ship market. We'll touch on the faction drones as well, because the catalyst for this video has been, or the catalysts I should say, have been two things. First of all, it was a question in help chat and I never saw an answer, so I still don't know myself. But someone asked if you get positive reputation with a pirate faction, is there a point where the pirate rats stop being red and stop shooting at you? And I didn't see the answer, I don't know the answer, but I would love to know. So if anyone has any information on that, definitely put that in the comments. I think it would be very interesting information for players. My instinct tells me that the answer is no, that for instance getting even to 10.0 with Angel Cartel will not change the color of the icons and will not change the aggressiveness of the Angel Cartel on your ship when you fly in space and you encounter them. But I could be wrong on that, and that could be an interesting mechanic, of course, if that's how it actually works, that you can eventually basically become like neutral, at least, to the rats that fly out there. The second bit is that I've actually been making a little bit of ISK running the blueprint copies that I still have and that I found as well for faction frigates and faction drones. So here, for instance, you can see I found two Daredevil blueprints in a 3 out of 10s in Galente space doing my exploration. So we can return those and then I can go to my inventory and then try and find them. Where are they? So that I can show you guys what that looked like. Here we go, Daredevil. So if I press show info on that and then view in industry, no, so I gotta go to the blueprint. Well, they're selling for 74 million ISK. Current price is actually going down from a peak in May, an industry scare, I would say, at this point, because we're right back to a more normal range for the Daredevil market. But if we then go to the blueprint and we press view in industry, you can see that the input is estimated at 32 million ISK and the output is estimated at 80 million ISK. So that's a very nice profit margin, even if it's only 74 million ISK. So what I've done on these is actually at most of these minerals already, but just, you know, press buy all and get started, and we're looking at a pretty decent profit. I'll be taking a quick look at a couple of BPCs that I've got ready as well. I'm not rushing any of this, but as long as I'm finding some of these positive ones, we're definitely continuing. So I moved these from BPCs, which I had gathered over a long period of time. Let's move that input and output to item hanger. And you can see for this, there's not even any of those new items. So the input cost is estimated at 7 million ISK. The output cost is estimated at 22 million, so triple the price, a nice 200% profit margin on producing these augmented drones, and I can get 5 runs done. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do a right click, we'll do buy all and see what the actual prices are at the moment. All right, that does seem to be a little bit more expensive at the moment. Let's see what's so much more. Couple million for the elite drone AI. Is definitely up in price. Up. All of them are up, in fact. All right, that's interesting. This is estimated at 2.2 million and it's actually 2.5 million, but still, it's 38 million against an estimated total of 34 million. All right, just switched a little bit, did a sort of an update, I think. And then its estimated price goes up to 115. Oh, it's because I did 5 of them, of course. So it's still pretty much triple the price, and that's what's happening. All right, I did 5 of them, which is why all of these numbers are a little bit out of whack from what we first saw. But all right, let's give that a try. Press buy all again. So this was estimated at 34. And the buy all is still up or something. Yeah, there we go. Window is hidden. So, I've been adding buy orders like that. That's not what I want to do. So be careful before clicking anything. Make sure to check, because with the buy all function, you can make mistakes as well. 38 million input. 111 million output. That seems like a good deal. Let's press buy and let's press start. And let's see if this next one is the same thing. Yeah, definitely on the estimated, so that should still be fine. Let's do another buy all, up a little bit. You can see that we are eating up a little bit of the supply from the market. It's up to 40 million at this point, but still a very nice profit margin. So let's build these 5 as well. Then we can bring them to the market and try to make some money that way. But yeah, all of this made me take a look at the faction market, and I want to share what I've seen so far, and also what was mentioned in some of the Reddit threads about all of this. Some stuff is clearly out of whack. Now let's get started with the frigates, where you just saw me have a very nice profit margin on these pirate faction ships, namely they were Daredevil. So we got this nice little peak here that went up to 90 million ISK. Not that much of an increase, but definitely a very nice price for a single Dramiel. You can see that a BPC drops from just a 3 out of 10, so pretty easy to supply and to find this, even in high sec, and as a result you actually have a pretty decent market with a good margin and with an easy to produce item as well. Not too much of the new stuff is needed in industry, so this still makes, view in industry right here, this still makes complete sense, right? 33 million input, 80 million estimated, currently 75 million estimated output. That's basically the value of your BPC, your reward for finding a blueprint through exploration, for instance. Now, if we look at the price history for all of the ships quickly, here is the Astero, jumped from 55 million to 90 million ISK, and apparently is here to stay, still costing 88 million ISK. Then we get the Crewer, double jumps up to 1 year high points of 80 million, double the price from about 4 months ago. Very, very expensive. Pull back to 60, but that's still a 50% increase in price from the start of the industry changes. We saw the Daredevil, but the Dramiel very close to 1 year high point, definitely expensive as well. Garmer going for 80 million, but again, if we go and take a look at the industry requirements for these ships, view industry, then we get an input cost of 34 million and an output cost of 84 million. And so finding one of these BPCs or maybe earning them through a loyalty point store does provide you with a nice bit of value. Succubus also very clear jump with the industry changes in early May, up to 70 million, and currently recovering a tiny little bit back down to 71 here at the moment for the seller. So we're seeing a bit of pressure, but nothing really to write home about. Worm, probably one of the most popular ones for the Abyss, is currently at a 1 year high point, costing 84 million ISK. So this still feels like, all right, this is very normal, and this is all running as expected. It's a little bit more expensive, and the reason why is, of course, the industry changes with these new items right here, the trigger Neuralinks, Neuralink conduits, integrity preservation seal, etc. This is what makes this ship cost a little bit extra. And then if you look at the market details for these items, they are slowly going down in price. And so that is probably why we're slowly recovering in quite a few of these ships as well. Few market details. Let's take a look at this one. The Neuralink just started off at 45 million, currently costing 10 million a piece. And if we go to the actual sellers, 11.5, but buyers very aggressive still here. Not aggressive, very big margin here, 7.5 million. I would not be surprised if we're going to see more and more pressure on these prices as well. And you can see here this trigger Neuralink conduit down from 20 million and currently under pressure at 12.5. First couple of buyers coming in at 11 million. It's going to be interesting to see where the market will settle and what will happen with these types of items once industry might pick up again. So they could have a very violent response, I would say, to changes in industry and to changes in demand. Definitely want to check these here as well. Pretty quickly went to 500,000, so these seem to be pretty stable and well supplied at this point. This is not going to be a big problem for the market or for the industrialists to gather and to absorb. But some of the others, 10 million, 12 million, definitely pretty expensive. but within the frigate market, at least it seems like all has been absorbed quite nicely. As we go to bigger ships, things start to get a little bit wonky though. So here are the cruisers. We're going to start with the pirate faction cruisers. We do have the normal price response on the industry changes. Here is the Shimu, for instance, 1 year high point, double the price pretty much, up to over 130 million ISK. Cinnabal just jumping to a 1 year high point of 230 million, 240 almost now for the sellers. These are definitely becoming very, very expensive. Ortrus, same thing, basically a 1 month increase in price from just around 200 million to 450, so over double the price, and now we get a little bit of motion at this price range, but definitely expensive on the chart. Phantasm, same story, fact from 100 to 250 million ISK. Stradios, very expensive as well, and then the Gila, of course, one of the strongest, I would say, PvE cruisers out there, because it's still faction, marked as Tech 1, can have that incredible tank, shield tank, and incredible damage application with both drones and missiles. This is really also one of my favorite combat platforms to fly. It's one of the most popular ones in the Abyss for exploration and probably for other PvE activities as well. 150 million at the low end and currently going for 328 million ISK. They have definitely become a lot more expensive. Let's take a look at the industry on some of these though. So if we go here and then view industry, we've got an input cost of 337 million for the Vigilant and an output cost of 326 million. Now, this still feels like, all right, it may just be that this is going down in price a little bit, and that hasn't been calculated fully by the estimated total prices, because this always lags behind a little bit. And so we're also seeing a little bit of a correction in the Vigilant. Perhaps, you know, that margin is just closing up, but eventually we'll get back into a more normal situation. Let's take a quick look at the most popular one, and should be one of the most popular ones at least. Here is the Gila. Input cost 350, output value 336 million. So you're seeing at the moment, right, finding or getting a blueprint copy for the Gila doesn't make a lot of sense, because your input cost is higher than the output cost. But you may still get a feeling here again, you're seeing a little bit of recovery in the price. I think if we go for the Gila, a little bit of recovery in the price. So maybe we overshot a little bit, and then with a bit of pressure on these new items that we need for production, that will actually get back into a more normal situation. And so you may get that feeling from looking at these cruiser charts and these cruiser prices, that we're still absorbing the industry changes in these faction ship markets, and that eventually will go back to normalcy, and perhaps even in a situation like with the frigates, where all seems well, and, you know, finding a BPC for a pirate faction frigate is a very nice payday in exploration. But if we go up then to let's just dive straight into the battleships. We'll start with these pirate faction ships, but I think we're already going to start to see a bit of a problem here. So here's the Barghest, again, definitely in a completely new range of prices, way more expensive than a couple of months ago before the industry changes. Barghest currently costing almost 1.5 billion ISK. And then if we look at the industry requirements for this one, well, we are talking 1.9 billion ISK on current input cost against a 1.4 billion estimated price. You can also see that the recovery actually happened about a month ago, and we're currently going up in price for the value of the Barghest. And this does tell me that something completely different is actually happening in these faction ships, not just for the pirates ones, but if we go for like a very classical Dominic's Navy issue for a Navy faction battleship, you can see that we actually have the price increase as well, right at the start of the changes to industry here, early April, probably even on the announcements. We had a peak up to like 800 million ISK, 700 for a little bit, couple of weeks or something like that. And we're recovering right back down to 600 million, slightly more expensive than what it used to be, but not that much to write home about. But then we're going to go to industry, and here this should be really mind-boggling. Estimated input cost 1.25 billion ISK. Estimated output value 600 million ISK. Have the actual value of your current input cost if you would just do a buy all, which is of course not like something that will eventually, with like slightly lower prices on some of these input materials will, balance itself out or anything like that. So what's actually happening, I actually had to look that up a little bit as well, is that through the loyalty point store, it's also possible to buy these hulls directly. And apparently it's also possible for the pirate faction ships, although you need positive standings, of course, and actual LP with those pirate factions. And this is why all of a sudden in help chat we're starting to get those types of questions, because players are of course responding to all of this, and getting pirate LP, buying let's say a Macarial directly from the market, well, you can sell that Macarial for 743 million ISK, and if you would have to go through a BPC and produce it, it would cost you 1.8 billion ISK in input materials. And so now there's a bit of a rush probably on getting characters that can earn LP for all of these factions, and thus just buy the hulls directly from the NPCs. The cost is always loyalty points and an amount of ISK, but in order to thus produce these, what's like competing with the industry side of these faction ships is just time, ISK and LP, not a single input material required that has to be harvested in many different places. And it's pretty obvious at the current prices that that type of activity is currently dominating the faction ship market, except for the frigates. My guess there is that basically we don't have enough of these new materials there to make the difference that large that it makes sense to start grinding LP and buying the frigates with them. But once you get into the battleships, of course, if we go for view industry, you also have that core temperature regulator, 15 million, and we're starting to look at 500, 240 and 50 in input costs, 775 million estimated value for these trigger Neuralink conduits. That is of course a lot of ISK, a lot of these new items that would need to be gathered in order to produce one of these hulls through the industry facility. Now, I don't know if this imbalance is going to remain in the game, or if CCP is going to do something about that. So there, in my opinion, there's two ways that this could go. Number one is that this is all part of the plan from CCP, and this could also indicate where they're expecting the actual costs of those new materials to end up at long term, which would mean way lower than what they are at the moment. On the other hand, it could also be that this is something that CCP will change eventually, making it so that you can't buy the hulls anymore for LP and ISK, and that of course would become a major disruption of the market again, and could make these prices go absolutely stratospheric. Then we're talking 2 billion ISK for Macarial easy, and maybe even more, which may not be what CCP actually wants to do, since eventually I do think newer players make these types of ships their goals. If you're doing missions, you can at first start with a Tech 1 battleship, and then a faction battleship is that nice upgrade that'll get you in a better position, and then your final stop will should always probably be like a Marauder or something like that, as long as you're like sticking up to level 4s. At level 5s we're talking completely different aspects of the game. But yeah, this is something that I was very surprised by, to see how big the difference is on some of these ships. You've got a Nightmare that does already cost more than 1 billion ISK when it went for 600 million at the start of the year. But then if we go to industry and look at the estimated production cost of a Nightmare, it's 1.8 billion ISK, which is like so much more expensive that the Nightmare would really become something that you wouldn't want to lose that often. And yeah, Nightmare fleets in Nullsec, for instance, definitely something that I've seen around quite often. Big balls of Nightmares, that's then probably potentially also a thing of the past. And this does feel kind of strange to me, and it also for me is another sign that well, at least I hope so, that all of these industry changes are indeed just the start of a much larger and comprehensive plan that CCP does have. And I personally can't wait to learn more about these, because this doesn't feel like the end situation that CCP is actually aiming at for the industry changes, specifically here for the faction ship markets. And so the good news, I would say, is that, you know, if you're still looking for something profitable to do when it comes to industry, well, the tiny faction stuff, so faction drones, faction frigates, those still do make you quite a bit of ISK, and so some exploration can yield you BPCs that can then help you get into industry in a more positive way, I would say. And yeah, that's interesting, definitely something that I'm going to keep a close eye on. I don't see trade potential in that market at the moment. Prices are just too high, and although there is the potential that CCP says no more hulls for LP, then you would have an amazing trade. I personally would not bet the house on that at the moment. So we will see. Who knows what happens next. Very, very interesting in my opinion to see that interplay of these changes, and then the players starting to funnel towards finding the most effective way of producing, in this case, these faction ships. And yeah, it's no longer industry. It's actually straight up LP, ISK, and go to the LP store. So make sure that you get the reputations with all these factions so that you can produce them. A bit of a very strange situation and quirk in the faction ships in EVE Online at the moment. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.